All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I want to talk about Dan Hooker and Arman Tsarukyan and the trash talk that they have been engaging in. Okay, I find it quite entertaining, and both of them recently went on Ariel Helwani's show, where Helwani did a decent job at instigating. Now, I know a lot of people don't necessarily like Ariel Helwani, but I will say that he is very good at instigating, which in turn gives us good content, not to mention all the other interview-based channels like MMA Fighting, Submission Radio, MMA Junkie, and things like that. They are severely lacking, in my opinion, and even when they have good guests on their show, they ask no questions that would get us some good content. So just wanted to get that out of the way and give Helwani a little bit of credit. But in these interviews, we get a lot of good moments. Dan Hooker just essentially shaming Arman for being a spoiled rich kid. Okay, which he is, but we will get to some of that in a bit. But before Dan's interview, we had Arman essentially making vague threats, talking about how he's going to bring a bunch of brothers, whatever that means, kind of like he did to Bobby Green, which Dan also brings up as well. So what we're going to do is start off with some moments from Arman's interview, and then we will get to Dan Hooker just kind of roasting him. Okay, so let's get to the clips.
Okay, so can I ask, why November 22nd? Why Qatar? Why Dan Hooker? How did we end up here?
So I was asking about the title fight, and they said this year Ile he's not gonna fight. So that's why I said I'll fight to anybody because I haven't fought a long time. So I wanna fight, and Dan Hooker, Gagey, works for me, these names. And finally Gagey, like I heard, like Gagey said no, and Hooker said yes, so we are in.
Okay, so was Gaethje the top choice?
Gagey would be better, but for me it doesn't matter. It's both of them, it's just easy money for me.
Sure. Do you know why Gaethje said no?
But he knows he could lose to me.
Right. Do you think he's going to get a title shot as a result of saying no? That seems to be the rumor.
Oh, it's gonna be so bad to me, you know.
Okay, now I included this clip for a couple reasons, mainly though because I think it shows just how entitled a lot of these guys have become, and it is extremely frustrating as a fan of the sport to find out that Justin Gaethje turned down an Arman Tsarukyan fight, which would undoubtedly put him in actual title contention. I just find very fucking annoying. Okay, he's on a one-fight win streak at the moment, but the fact that he turned down Arman, in my opinion, means he is genuinely not gonna fight unless he gets a title shot. And we know that oftentimes Ali Abdullah Sleeza's fighters get opportunities that they probably shouldn't, so I wouldn't be surprised. But I think it would be a ridiculous title fight to make at this time, not to mention the entitlement from Arman's side, talking about how he asked for a title shot, and the only reason he took this fight was because essentially the UFC said no, Ilya isn't going to be fighting for the next little while. Now, I am glad that he took a fight, finally, by the way, so I'll give him a little bit of credit there, and I know that Arman fans will say that he deserves the title shot. We heard the same kind of thing out of Ankalaev fans before he got the first Pereira fight, but there is a difference, in my opinion, between being quote-unquote deserving and maybe being more deserving than some of the guys in your division. So is Arman more deserving than Gaethje? Yeah, probably, right? But only because it's relative, okay? He fucked up his chance, and since he did do that, he's been acting like he's getting done dirty by everyone. Meanwhile, he's the only person that did himself dirty. But let's keep going, okay?
It's going to be a one-sided fight?
I mean, we'll see how I fight, how like my fight goes, but for sure our fight is #1 contender.
When you accepted the fight, did they tell you that? Did they say, okay, it's done November 22nd and it's going to be #1 contender, or did you find out like all of us?
No, they didn't say like this is #1 contender fight, but like Dana said last weekend,
yeah,
it's a #1 contender fight. But you know, like we know they can do whatever they want to do. So
Sure. I was just surprised that he said that because he usually doesn't say that. They usually never actually say this fight is number one contender for whatever reason.
I mean, I'm a number one contender about 2 years already.
Sure. I mean, someone can make the case that you should be fighting for the belt next.
All right, and there is some more of that entitlement that I spoke about earlier. Arman just said he's been the number one contender for 2 years at this point, which I do find absolutely fucking hilarious considering his fight against Charles Oliveira didn't even take place 2 years ago. So I guess he's trying to say he's been a number one contender since the Beneil Dariush fight, or I don't fucking know. Okay, and of course Ariel's got to hit him with the glaze and talk about how you could make the case he should be already getting a title shot or whatever, and yeah, maybe you could, but this wouldn't even be a discussion had he not pulled out of his long-awaited title fight the day before the fight took place, fucking over essentially everyone. Okay, the UFC got kind of screwed. They had to fix the problem with very short notice. Moicano got screwed because his title shot opportunity came on horrible circumstances, and Islam Makhachev got kind of screwed as well, honestly, because people discredit that title defense against Moicano. Meanwhile, it had nothing to do with Islam Makhachev or his decisions. And since it happened, Arman has been moaning and whining about his title shot like he didn't fucking have one. Okay, but let's keep going.
Is this fight against Dan personal for you? Because, the tweets back and forth between you guys, do you feel like this is a personal fight?
I mean, no, it's not personal fight because it's just
You remember this one?
it's just a business,
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's a business. Yeah, of course. On the real life, I know he's gonna shut his mouth and he couldn't say anything about me. But when it's gonna be media or a lot of people, of course he can do something.
Have you ever seen him? Have you ever talked to him in person?
No, I haven't seen him, but I'm gonna see him in Qatar.
Okay, now I just find it absolutely fucking hilarious that Arman Tsarukyan thinks Dan Hooker, of all people, Dan Hooker, won't talk shit in person. I mean, what the fuck are we talking about? That's crazy. And then the accusations of, well, if it's in front of media or social media, maybe he'll say something. When Arman Tsarukyan's whole thing is essentially being an Instagram influencer at this point, using his dad's money to go viral on Instagram, eating thousands of dollars worth of caviar and shit like that. Okay, I thought that was just absolutely crazy coming from a guy like Arman Tsarukyan.
But he knows media and security and everybody is gonna be there, and he's gonna behave like a hooker.
What does that mean?
Like he's gonna behave like he behaved with cameras, because he knows nobody gonna touch him.
Okay. So the energy, you think you don't think there'll be any drama beforehand? You think it will all just play out in the fight?
We'll see. We never know, especially if we're fighters.
Sure.
Maybe he's gonna talk a lot, but a lot of brothers coming, and hopefully they gonna stop me.
Oh my.
And yeah, I shouldn't do some crazy things. I just gotta be focused because I'm gonna have 25 minutes.
Oh my god, what a sick fucking burn. I don't know if Dan Hooker's ever going to be able to recover from a guy calling him Hooker because his last name is Hooker. That is so unbelievably original, and my stomach hurts from laughing. I'm actually kind of impressed. But so Arman Tsarukyan is talking about how he's going to be with a bunch of brothers or whatever, as if to imply that if Dan Hooker tries something, or even if he tries something, it'll be stopped by his entourage, and I just find it pathetic, honestly. Okay, Arman is the kind of guy who brings his friends to literally hold me back, bro. Hold me back, man. That is some three fingers whack type shit. Are you serious? But for some reason, these guys from this region do like to roll up on other guys with large groups. Okay, Habib did this to Artem Lobov. Arman did this to Bobby Green. Okay, something that Dan Hooker kind of calls out. So we'll talk about that when we get to it, but let's keep going.
Dan spoke to a website called Submission Radio, a show, Submission Radio, and he said, if Arman comes in arm's range of me, I'm going to hit him. That's the long and short
Oh
of
my
it.
God.
He said, the fight's going to be off, and I don't care about that. That's what I'm saying. If you put me near the guy, the fight's off. And I feel like he feels the exact same way. If you put me near the guy, I'm going to try to hit him and throw shit at him and push him off. The UFC wants this fight to happen, so it's on them to keep us away from each other.
Oh, he just talking a lot. But but if you see gonna put us on one room without rumors, without camera, without bodyguards, he's not gonna do anything.
This is spicy stuff. He also said he wants to kick your teeth in.
He can do whatever he wants to do. He's gonna have 25 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And if he wants, we can fight, and after fight, we can fight again.
All right, now this is what I was talking about in the opening, okay? Ariel Helwani with the absolutely based, instigating, again, in my opinion, but I think it creates a bit more excitement and tension, and other interviewers like Mike Heck or fucking Damon Martin, the guy that eats his goddamn microphone, these kind of guys literally just spend 12 minutes asking people like Tatiana Suarez about how her and Patchy cope with negative comments. Like, how about shut the fuck up, okay? We don't care. But anyways, let's just get to the next clip.
And could I understand? So we all know what happened in January, and we've talked to you since then. Did you ever think that it would take so long to get a fight? You know, it'll be 19 months between fights for you in the end, and it will be 11 months since your fight that was supposed to happen in California.
No, when I got injured, I thought I'm not gonna have this year a fight, because I thought my injury gonna takes a while, but I could be a backup. I had a training camp. I cut my weight very well, and so my back, it doesn't bother me anymore, and I'm super healthy. So yeah, when I got hurt, I thought I'm not gonna fight this year, but you see, I'm back, and hopefully I'm fighting next month.
All right, now I do want to say I respect that Arman Tsarukyan is sticking to his story, okay? But I also want to say that I find it absolutely fucking hilarious that literally nobody believes him. And whenever anyone else, fighters, Dana White, whoever, talk about it, it's always that it was a weight issue. Now, I want to point out that Arman, literally 2 days after the fight got canceled, that is, said his back felt better already on the Jackson podcast. I did a video on that appearance. Now he's trying to say he thought he was going to be out for a whole year. And by the way, we still have zero confirmation of what it was, if the injury is legitimate and true. He's never said it was a bulge disc or anything like that, so I am a little curious in that regard, but I just think it's funny that he's sticking with that story so fucking vigilantly, yet Dana White just goes, yeah, he couldn't make weight every single time it gets brought up.
Any restrictions at all with the back injury?
No, all good. So just the best thing is not overtrained, and don't push too much. Sometimes I want to do as much as possible, but right now I know I already had that situation.
I mean, this guy couldn't even keep a straight face talking about his alleged injury and how he keeps it from happening again. And listen, okay, I've got like 6 fucking bulge discs in my lower back. I am fully aware that they can flare up, get inflamed, things like that, and it can be absolutely devastating. Okay, and I know that people use this to defend him. I just find the timing unbelievably convenient, and that it felt perfectly fine a couple days later is a little strange. But anyways, the rest of the interview is essentially just them talking about his food videos and whatnot, which does remind me a little bit of Kelvin Gastelum, okay? These guys who maybe have issues cutting weight just have no fucking shame about why that is the case. He did say, though, that they were going to eat fish in his next one because he's on a diet, and they were going to eat the fish that makes black caviar. Okay, now that's a fucking sturgeon. All right, those things are absolute dinosaurs. Now, I don't know about everywhere else, but in my country, I think you can only catch and keep one sturgeon per year, so that's insane. But anyways, as Sean Strickland would say, I regress. So let's get to Dan Hooker's response to all of this.
Thinking, okay, I'm going to come back, end of the year, all this stuff. Was Arman someone that you thought was going to be offered? Was he on your radar? Obviously, we know about the back and forth between you guys, but did you think he would be offered ultimately, or did you think they would offer someone else?
Yeah, I thought that was going to be the fight. I know that he was offered Gamrot, who he's lost to, and he turned that fight down. And Gamrot's like obviously someone just ranked outside of me and someone that I've beaten. So I knew between like he didn't want to fight Gamrot because Gamrot was ranked so low and coming off a loss. And so I knew that between me and Arman Tsarukyan, that absolutely no one wants to fight the guy. I know that no one wants to take that risk. I knew that some of the bigger name guys, because now they have a reason to avoid him as well. Like everyone does have a reason to avoid him with the weight miss and things like that. There'll be a lot of like now the champion has an excuse to not fight the guy. And like a legitimate excuse in that the UFC and you put so much time into something and then a guy pulls out at the weight cut is a legitimate excuse for a champion and the UFC to not put you into a big fight. I knew that he had to fight to get back into title contention.
All right, now before we get to the actual content of what Dan Hooker is saying here, I just need to point this out, and I'm not trying to be shitty, okay? I'm concerned for Dan Hooker a little bit. I don't know if any of you noticed or not, but I think we're starting to get the CTE inhale from Dan Hooker here, and it does have me a little worried, okay? Michael Bisping most notably does this as well, where he'll be mid-sentence and all of a sudden inhales like he's got his hands on a pair of women's panties or some shit. Sometimes it even sounds like he's slurping up drool. Well, where's your fucking belt, buddy? Back when I was a fighter. But, you know, so anyways, I am worried about that. But even when Dan is not trying to shit talk, he is still essentially shit talking. We get the casual Arman turned down Gamrot and then goes on to talk about how people have a legitimate excuse to not fight Arman Tsarukyan because of how he pulled out of that title fight. And that's kind of what I was talking about earlier. Everyone essentially unanimously agrees that it wasn't actually a back injury. But anyways, let's keep going.
And so what about the relationship between you two, for lack of a better word? Because we saw the tweets over the past year or so, and then I saw you doing an interview with Submission Radio saying, like, if you guys get close, this is going to pop off beforehand. So is that a real, like, do they need to be very careful here? Because obviously you guys want to get paid, you want to have the fight. If you fight beforehand, it may not happen.
Yeah, obviously there's bad blood. I feel like he's come in and been pretty like since he first came into the UFC, he's just kind of discredited me as a fighter and things that I've done, and that's his own opinion. But and there's just been back and forth over the years, and so I'd love to get in there and fight him. It's just things that he's done in the past. You know, he's just like a lippy little rich kid that's had everything handed to him in his life, and he thinks he can go around and like, it's like.
All right, so there it is. Dan Hooker calling him out for being a lippy little rich kid who has had everything handed to him. After this, he's going to get into the whole Bobby Green situation and explain why he thinks Arman is willing to do shit like that. And I gotta say, I completely fucking agree with him, okay? Arman Tsarukyan is extremely wealthy and not from fighting. Everybody knows this. His father's like some construction mogul in fucking Russia, and typically speaking, you don't become that wealthy in a country like that one or China or whatever without serious government intervention or being in bed with said government. I mean, the level of wealth is actually insane, and everything about the man's company is completely private. Can't hardly find any info on it at all. But anyways, let's keep it going.
I'm just saying, if there's a repeat, like there's a video of him walking up on Bobby Green and like getting in his face like before the fight, and obviously he doesn't need the money from these UFC fights. You know what I mean? He does this for attention and Instagram likes. Like, he doesn't fight to feed his family. Like, I fight to provide for my family. Bobby Green provides for his family through fighting. So him coming up in his face, obviously Bobby Green's not going to lash out and he's going to keep it professional. I'm just saying, if he walks up on me like he walked up on Bobby Green, the fight is cancelled and the UFC has been full. I might actually write that in my contract.
Do you?
All right, now I think Dan Hooker is on the fucking money, okay? Arman Tsarukyan is willing to do stupid shit because he doesn't actually need the money. And no matter how this career works out, he will be more than fine and still extremely wealthy. Now, I disagree with Dan slightly, okay? Because it's very obvious to me that Bobby Green is actually fighting to buy more rings and chains and crazy outfits and things like that. But aside from that, I think he's 100% correct. And that Bobby Green encounter was kind of when I started to not be a fan of Arman as much. He approached Bobby while he was sitting on his phone by himself with a whole group of guys, kind of like he alluded he was going to do to Hooker earlier, got all up in Bobby Green's face, and then Arman fans will say this, well, Bobby pushed him first. Yeah, Arman was basically trying to fucking kiss him, okay? And Bobby Green was surrounded by ops, completely surrounded. Bobby Green ain't about that shit, bro. Do you see the guy? Right? He's going to blast on the ops on King David without question. Okay. But anyways, like I said, on the fucking money, spoiled rich kid. And I know people will praise, oh, well, it's even more impressive that he fights when he doesn't need to. Bullshit. Okay. This was a point that would get used against Israel Adesanya as well. Came from well-off parents, had the freedom to pursue whatever he wanted, from dancing to fighting to whatever. And I'm not trying to shit on that. Okay. It's cool that Izzy's parents, to a much lesser degree than Arman's, obviously, but it's cool that their parents did well enough to allow their children to pursue their dreams, but they don't deserve extra credit for doing so. That's all I'm trying to say. Okay, let's keep going.
Do you think that is something that kind of works against them? Like, if you have to, if you need to win, you need to fight to provide for your family as opposed to not, as you say, do you think that means you have a lesser edge if you're on that side of the equation?
Not the way the sport is now. I don't think the sport. Yeah, I don't think the way the sport is designed now. I don't think it was what it used to be. I think now, you know, like, you can see that. Like, I come up from nothing. You know, we were training with nothing, training with no equipment. When I first started coming up in here, we had no UFC fighters from training out of New Zealand in the UFC. Now you can, like, he can get the best nutritionist. His daddy can pay for the best strength and conditioning coach and fly him to. Bro, I've seen some of him come out and say that he spent, he had to pull out. And he's like, yeah, I spent $100K on training camp. It's like, bro, what? Rich little daddy's boys can reach the pinnacle of the sport.
Again, I do agree with Dan here. The way the sport is now, it isn't a hindrance or a burden to come from wealth because of exactly what he laid out. You can pay for all the best, everything, for training, recovery, nutrition, whatever else you might need. We've seen Ilia Topuria become champ as a wealthy person. Not to mention, I know everyone likes to talk about, you know, the Dagestan guys as if they came from nothing and whatnot. And to an extent, sure, but they did have substantial funding from people like Kadyrov, who was buying them whatever the fuck they needed and all that stuff. So, I mean, they didn't really come from nothing. And I think that them being champions is also a testament to what Dan said here. When you don't got to worry about bills, all of your energy, time, and money can go to fighting and getting better and whatever else. However, it might be a hindrance or a burden for positions like the one that Arman was in against Islam, or maybe if he was in need a little bit more, would have made the weight or fought with a sore back, okay? Or not attacked a fan after UFC 300 and whatever, whatever else fucking he does, okay?
I asked him about this potential interaction and the relationship between you two. Here's what he had to say. I'd love for you to hear it and maybe respond.
He's gonna talk a lot, but a lot of brothers coming and hopefully they gonna stop me, you know.
Oh my.
And yeah, I shouldn't do some crazy things. I just gotta be focused because I'm gonna have 25 minutes to beat his ass. He can do whatever he wants to do. He's gonna have 25 minutes.
Hmm.
And if he wants, we can fight, and after fight we can fight again, but
What?
not before.
So he says a lot of brothers are coming.
Ooh, fuck! I've never been jumped before.
And once again, absolutely based instigating from Ariel, or at the very least, attempting to. Now, I do like Dan no selling it. If you have been jumped before mentally, it could go like one of two ways. You're either fucking terrified for the rest of your life, or you're like, well, you know, that sucked, but I'm okay or whatever. So, I mean, it's no big deal. I've been jumped pretty fucking badly, okay, before when I was a teenager by adults wielding batons, okay? And after that, it does kind of feel like, well, I mean, it sucked. But it wasn't the worst thing in the world, and most of the time people won't be wielding weapons, so it can't get much worse aside from being stabbed or shot or some shit. So fuck it, essentially. But let's go to the rest of his response.
I'd ask I guess the friction between you two. When did it start? How did this all come about?
I think when he first got into the UFC and he started saying my name and discrediting what I accomplished, and I'm just not a guy to back down and take that lightly. And I think, when he first came into the UFC, he's saying I'm ducking him, and I didn't even know who the kid was. I actually, because his manager's Ruby, I actually go, I have to apologize, Ruby, because I was giving him shit. I was saying, I said, these blokes don't even speak English. I said, get off their Twitter. I thought he was doing the Ali Abdelaziz and just tweeting on his boys.
Mhm.
getting on his boys Twitter and just firing out a bunch of nonsense. So I actually got into Ruby. I said, get off these kids calling me out and talking shit. I said, get off these kids' Twitter handles, mate. You're gonna get them hurt. But it turns out it was actually Arman the whole time. So I was I was fully warranted. Yeah, he's just been mouthing off since he first got in the UFC.
Okay, absolutely based. Psychopath Dan Hooker, I do appreciate him saying that, though, because in a way it calls these guys out and makes them look like absolute bitches when it comes to confrontations in a public setting. You got to go round up your boys to come confront someone. Like, you're not that fucking guy, pal, okay? If you got to do that, you're not that guy, pal. But do you know what I mean, okay? Like I said earlier, this is a pattern from these types of guys. And yes, I'm aware that Arman is not with Khabib's crowd or whatever, but it does kind of seem like all these guys from that region have that kind of mentality, except for maybe Merab. But I mean, Merab is just different in every way possible anyways.
But who cares? Who cares? Who cares? I've had my ass beat more times than you've had hot dinners, brother. You think that scares me in any way, shape, or form? You're off your head.
You got some pretty tough brothers on your side as well, just for the record.
I got some pretty tough brothers, but I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy, brother. I'm not that guy. I've heard him as well. I'm not that guy. I don't go get no one in my life. You beat me up, I'm not gonna go get anyone else to come and sort it out. I'm not gonna hide behind anyone. I don't need brothers. I have brothers, but I'm not that guy. I don't go and get people. If I got a problem with someone, I'll come around your house and sort it out myself. I'm not.
Listen, I know some people dislike Dan Hooker, and there have been some things in the past that he said or whatever that made me be like, what the fuck, man? Do you know what I mean? But when Dan Hooker is gone from mixed martial arts, he will be missed. Guys like this do not come around very often, and honestly, if Arman goes on to become champion or whatever, I can almost guarantee Dan Hooker will be remembered more and more fondly by the MMA fan base as a whole. Now, I do just want to say I don't think Arman meant his own bodyguards, his own cameramen, and Dan kind of figured it out towards the end there eventually. I think Arman obviously meant UFC security and things like that, but to act like Dan Hooker is not that guy, pal, is just fucking crazy to me. Hello? And I do like how nonchalantly he responds to all of these things while kinda cooking them. Okay, lastly, that response at the end was maybe one of my favorite quotes all year from a fighter. I hate everyone. Personally, I can relate to that, but let's get to the last clip.
I don't send anyone to go and do my dirty work, brother. I saw what he said as well. He's like, if we just go in a room without bodyguards and cameramen, brother, I don't have bodyguards and cameramen, and I've never hired a bodyguard or a camera. That's how out of touch the skid is. That he just thinks that life comes with bodyguards and cameramen. I've never had a bodyguard in my life, brother. Obviously, there's UFC security guards standing around and stuff like that, but get real. We got 25 minutes. You're right. We got 25 minutes, and I cannot wait for it, my friend. I can't wait. I can't wait to see the look on your face.
Have you ever felt this way about an opponent before?
I hate everyone. Of course, it doesn't matter. You could be my best mate. You could be my worst enemy. I'm going to do the exact same thing. When you lock that door, it makes no shit of a difference. I think.
Okay, now I included that last clip there simply because I love when Ali Abdullah Sleaze catches a stray. Everyone knows he fucks around on his guys' Twitter accounts with that big ugly head of his, although some people have made good points about the fighters that claim Ali does all his social media shit and things like that. I was reading some of them on my last video, but the point is that those fighters still end up saying the same things at pressers or in interviews and whatnot. So using Ali as like a cop-out is not appropriate in this scenario, and I do kind of agree. And maybe Ali's coaching them to say the shit or whatever, but at the end of the day, they say it anyways, all while pretending to be some super humble guys or whatever. But anyways, that's it, okay? I just thought this back and forth was pretty entertaining or whatever. Thought I'd give some commentary on it. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments, please, and thank you. Like, subscribe, all that wonderful shit, okay? I'll see you at the next one. Bye-bye.